All right, good afternoon. Changing it up for myself a little bit today and filming this conversation after lunch. We'll see if having eaten food makes me better at interviewing or if I get carb coma. I don't know. Anyways, I'm excited to introduce you guys to my guest today. I'm going to send it right over to her. This is someone some of you will certainly recognize. So joining me today is Ingrid.
Hey, Logan, good to be here.
Yay, there we go. So Ingrid is, man, so many talents this lady has. Let's kind of, wrap a little bit of a bubble around it. She is, or up until very recently when clubs closed up, was the director of group fitness. And so is, in my mind, largely the expert when it comes to group training, group fitness, and just the whole community and culture of that side of the business, which makes a huge impact and yet sometimes doesn't always get the same recognition, if you will. It's a smaller group of instructors impacting a very large group of members, and so sometimes it doesn't look the same as one client working with one trainer at whatever volume that is. So we're lucky to have someone like Ingrid as a pro and a resource and an expert when it comes to everything that she's accomplished on that side of things. So I wanted to talk to her a little bit today about some of that. So that's sort of like a quick little, sprinkling. We've been kicking off these season 2 episodes with a fun little magic minute. So we'll do that first, and then we'll get into the topic of our conversation today. So are you primed? Are you ready for the magic minute?
Primed and ready as can be. Let's go.
Excellent. All right. If you could be any animal, what would you be?
I have thought about that one before, and I would have to go with a Black Panther.
Nice. I love it. We could actually just mic drop on that one. Done. Best question. Best answer.
I mean, sleek and powerful and unexpected, just all kinds of fantastic elements there.
I like it. Awesome. What is your favorite restaurant? You live downtown where there's all kinds of great things. So what's your favorite restaurant in Vancouver?
That is a tough one. There's so many amazing places in Vancouver in general. International cuisine's got to be, at the moment, Thai food, you can't go wrong with that. So yeah, if I were to have to pick one, let's go with that for now.
Perfect.
It might be different next week though.
That's totally fair. You got it. From a recreational hobby perspective, not your job fitness, but what would you say from a physical activity or get outside or sort of like a moving hobby? What would you say is sort of your favorite thing to do outside of professional fitness?
I love my bike. Road riding is a great way to commute and just a great way to be outside. And that's my go-to for sure.
Awesome. Let's see. Who's your favorite author?
Ooh, lately I've been going back to Stephen King for just some great, fun, spooky stuff. But before that, I toggle between kind of that genre and, just a great autobiography. And I'm kind of in between 2 books right now, both a Stephen King and Michelle Obama's Becoming.
Yeah.
So that's, some golden nuggets in there of just inspiration. So, got to be entertained, but also inspired. So there you go.
Totally. Yeah. Is it weird if I say that you're like my version of Michelle Obama? Like, I feel like you're the person I actually know that gets to sort of occupy that character in my world. So like if my life were a movie, you would be the Michelle Obama of my
Well,
story.
I take that as a huge compliment. I think I've got her arms or
totally do in part to your arms. Absolutely. Yeah. You can't have a Michelle Obama connection if you don't have the arms. I dig it.
That's, let alone, I don't know about the legal strategist, but I'll be working on that.
Yeah, there we go. Awesome. All right. I think that's a good question to end on. So thank you for that. Good stuff. So what we were going to talk about today was just kind of like taking a bit of a step back, looking at the fitness industry. You've been in it for a long time, which I think means you have both incredible depth in your skill set, but also just, you know, like I think a lot of us going through this club closure period of time, this is maybe the first hiccup in the fitness industry we've ever experienced. And yet, when you've been in it for a long time, you've seen changes, you have the benefit of hindsight. So I wanted to sort of lean into that today a little bit. So let's start with sort of you and how you got into fitness. What was the transition, or what was the progression for you in terms of even calling that your career and getting into that as what you were going to do for your profession?
Well, I think similar to you, I started out as an athlete, but my sport was not soccer, it was rhythmic gymnastics. So I was on the US national team, competing internationally, and you know, just really focused on that. And as I got towards the end of my career, I kind of was lining up for my final competitive season, and my coach said I needed more cardio. So I didn't want to run, which is what she told me to do, and I discovered fitness classes. So I realized, you know, going to a group fitness class was way more fun than running. So I started, you know, attending classes regularly, and within the next year, I was teaching my own classes and really getting a feel for the industry as a whole. Was lucky enough to line up with a small club that had corporate contracts. So kind of got into managing and programming for corporate contracts, and then got into personal training and facility management. And then, of course, the opportunity with, you know, a large scale multi-club entity. So kind of full circle, coming right back to group fitness.
Yeah, awesome. So, I mean, especially because I think part of the reason for doing these chats and sort of the main audience is like people that are thinking about becoming a trainer, or people that are taking their course, or that are just entering the industry. Part of why I love having you talk about group fitness and present at final day and sort of act in a small mentorship way for some of our students is because you've been a trainer. You
Right.
know what being a trainer is. And so, you know, similar to myself, having sort of a hybrid style, or at least experience on both sides of the one-on-one and the group, I think gives you a ton of credibility when you step in front of a group of trainers and say, hey, here's something to consider in the sense of what group fitness has to offer. So for some of the people watching this video, they haven't had the opportunity to hear that from you. Maybe give us a couple of the bullet points when you come in and talk about, hey, you're newly certified, you know, consider how group fitness might be an avenue for you as a professional. Give us a couple of those bullet points. Why do you think it makes sense to have the hybrid approach?
Oh gosh, I mean, there's so many benefits, both from one's own professional development as well as one's perspective, or the optics coming from the client when they view you as a fitness professional. Are you kind of a one-trick pony, or are you versatile and you have a lot to offer? So I mean, I think, you know, group fitness, as you mentioned, it's typically been a challenge from the full scope of the fitness industry, because it's often tied into membership dues. So just simply not having our own revenue line kind of segments it as, you know, perhaps not even to venture to say not as professional as a personal trainer in terms of group fitness versus PT, which is a challenging kind of, I think, unfortunate, you know, it's a perspective that we have to battle, because you'll often find group fitness instructors that have a wealth of knowledge and far more certifications than the average trainer. All right. So, but that being said, I mean, both skills are extremely valuable because they give you, again, perspective and depth and breadth in what you can offer a client. So while there's, of course, incredible value in the traditional route of becoming a trainer, there's incredible value in balancing those skills with being able to coach and cue to more than one person at a time, because there's a different energy level, there's a different skill set involved, and actively participating in both personal training and group fitness is going to give you a break. You know, it's hard to do 100% of one versus the other. So just from a longevity perspective, from a reducing your risk of burnout perspective, certainly there's value in pursuing both.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things that I've heard you say before, and I notice a lot, is when we consider where somebody is coming from when they decide, you know what, I want to get certified as a trainer. Probably what that means is they like fitness, hopefully, right?
Mm-hmm.
I find it'd be a little bit strange to go from no sport or fitness experience to I want to be a trainer. I think you have to have a certain amount of like, I like working out, I like exercise, it's helped me, it's changed my life, whatever. So you assume when people come to a CPT that they've got a little bit of personal experience, they know how to move, they've tried some things. But it's funny, a lot of people go, well, I know how to do it, I want to know the science behind it, I want the credibility, but then I'm going to be able to go use what I know and help other people. And what I find is missing a lot of times is being able to do something is actually a very different skill than being able to tell somebody how to do something they've never done before. And
Very
so
true.
what I find is a big gap for a lot of young trainers is they don't have a very good cueing vocabulary. They don't know how to explain the breakdown of something that they've already put together as a compound skill. And people learn in different ways. So you might figure out one way to say something and you say that to the person, but they don't get it. And then you're like, well, crap, now what do I do? So one of the big gaps that I see for a lot of young trainers is they don't know how to cue. They don't know how to talk. They don't know how to generate that sort of sharing of information. And so for me, for sure, where I learned how to do that was in group fitness.
Fantastic.
The other thing that I look at with that, though, is if I'm talking to one client, I have to say the right thing. And there's a certain amount of, there's a little bit of stress, like, oh my God, I have to say the right thing. Whereas when I was learning how to cue and I was in group fitness, as long as I said something right, it could apply to somebody in the room,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I didn't have to pair specific corrective language to one specific movement error. There was a little bit more of a generous space to be able to say, brace your core, like that applies to everybody. Remember to breathe, that applies to everybody. And so I built confidence in kind of a lower risk environment by learning how to teach to a group. I was more likely to be right because someone in the room would need what I said. And when you see someone in the back of the room, their technique isn't what you want it to be, you might say a bunch of things. They don't know you're talking to them specifically, but you say something and they finally fix their form and you're like, oh, okay, the thing I just said, that works. I have to remember that and use it again. So there was really cool, feedback even in that process. And I think I sort of think one of the skills that I have now is I have lots of ways to communicate depending on what the client that I'm working with needs. So I think that's huge when it comes to the skill set you can earn in group training, right?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
in addition to that, if you had someone who was maybe thinking, you know what, this makes sense, I like group, I want to expand my skill set, what kinds of things would you say you have to have if you're going to engage in group fitness, whether it's innate or whether it's a skill that you can learn? The best of the best, when you look at how group fitness gets delivered across the board, what are some of the skills or what are some of the sort of components to delivering a great class?
There's a lot, but I would start with the idea of, a catchphrase that we've used for a while is exertainment. So that ability to communicate, educate, motivate, inspire, but also, be comfortable in that cheerleader role. You're in front of a group of people and they're looking at you to, show them what to do and how to do it, but also get them excited and happy to be there. When we're in the industry ourselves, we tend to forget, not everybody loves exercise. We do, because it's our, it's our passion, it's our profession. But people are coming to you, to a class or to a training session to get inspired, right? This and these unusual times in particular, we're realizing more than ever, you know, when people can't even physically go to a gym and kind of be in the energy of that atmosphere, they're still needing to connect with us in some shape or form to be inspired, to be motivated to exercise. So absolutely, the skills needed to teach an effective class, whether it is live or virtual, you've got to be able to, again, capture that audience, be uplifting, be inspiring, be energizing, but be accessible. Right. That's another, I think, challenge that we sometimes have in the industry is that, you know, oh, you're already super fit, and this is, you know, this is easy for us, and we tend to forget that we're not always that easy to relate to, because we exercise kind of all day, every day from the perspective of the client and the customer. So making sure that we can speak their language in terms of, this isn't impossible, you can do this, we can modify it to make it work for you. And that comes with, as you say, cueing in a very effective but realistic and attainable way.
Yeah, awesome. I would even go so far as to say, maybe sometimes the difference between the energy, the communication, just the feel of a personal training session versus a group fitness class is, as a trainer, I have to be able to demo what my client is going to do. That physical representation of the exercise is important for them trying to mimic what they see. So you have to be able to do in order to teach, but the majority of the movement, the effort, the energy is coming from the client. Mm-hmm. So naturally, as a trainer, especially if you go hour by hour by hour, you're not working out hour after hour after hour, right? You're in you wear pants you can move in, and you have a couple of layers so that if you get warm demoing, you can take something off, and if you get cold when you're standing there, you can put something back on. Right. But it's not There's your workout.
A one rep expectation.
Yeah, I always say I got to be able to show 3 reps. So, right. If I'm training a male client, they're stronger than I am. If I can do their weight for at least 3 reps, I look like I can hang in there. I couldn't do 4 sets of 12 like I'm asking them to do, but I can show a good 3. So when we flip that around, when we look at the group fitness side of things, there's different styles of group fitness instruction. But where I learned and where I still see a lot being done is the instructors on the stage doing the workout, a lot of it, maybe occasionally stopping and correcting something or showing a low option or whatever, but the instructor is doing the majority of the workout. And so there's already a better sense of, we're in this together.
Absolutely.
They're doing it. And yet what I also have always loved is, as I'm exercising, what I'm feeling tells me what my participants might need to hear. So if I have to remind myself, squeeze your glutes, tuck your hips under, that's an easy way to say to them, hey, try this. It's working for me. And so it's funny, because if in order to get better at cueing, we just got more familiar with what the movements were like, the way we do in group fitness, I think that would really help. And that sense of energy and cheer and enthusiasm and whatever, it's really hard not to be enthusiastic when you hit the working block and you're in it and the music's going and everybody's staring at you, doing what you're doing. So I call myself a very true introvert. And yet group fitness was actually an easy place to learn to be an extrovert. As soon as I got a little bit of my warm-up endorphins going,
right,
I lost all of my nervousness, I lost all of my quietness, and it was, a really easy way to then step into delivering that extra.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think that you mentioned music as well, which is an integral part of the group fitness experience. Once you get that going, and some regulars and a community that you are building and maintaining, that in and of itself becomes just a hugely gratifying and rewarding experience that will keep you wanting to come back again and again.
Yeah.
But you asked about, again, my longevity in the industry and how things have evolved and changed. And it is interesting because typically the first question I ask a group of personal training students is, how many of you regularly participate in group fitness classes? And it's often less than half. if that. So it's interesting how, although the industry has definitely evolved, what used to be, you know, aerobics on one side and muscle building and bodybuilding on another side, and then you had sports and athletic training in another silo. It's all merging, it's all morphing, because it's all movement, and we're becoming so much more, you know, educated and smart about functional training in general, and really just kind of getting over those stereotypes. You know, we're not in thongs and leg warmers anymore, for better or worse.
Unless it's but yeah.
Yeah, but we have evolved to include, you know, a lot of definitely, you know, physiologically sound class formats that are very suitable to the trainer coming from a very perhaps muscle building or athletic training perspective. You're going to find a home and a suitable class format in the group fitness bubble. So I think it's, again, a lot of kind of myths and misinformation that perhaps need to be overcome by the average new personal training student, that group fitness has come a long way. And there's definitely formats out there for those that don't see themselves or view themselves as, you know, dance oriented or musically inclined. It's, you know, there's HIIT training, there's intervals, there's circuits, there's all kinds of dynamic stuff, let alone, you know, your whole mind body genres of yoga, Pilates, bar. So there's all kinds of options now that weren't necessarily there 20 years ago.
Well, and I think you're hitting on a really good point, because so if we were to talk about the evolution of the industry, yeah, you could go back to saying there were the women's gyms with aerobics and the Jane Fonda, right, kind of type, and then there was Muscle Beach and the Arnold Schwarzenegger types. Okay, cool. I mean, there's probably a few more Arnold Schwarzenegger types than there are Jane Fonda types these days in the types of gyms that I've seen. But the whole reality of the group training, group fitness, small group trainer, and kind of meet in the middle thing is, if there is not a group class in the gym that you work at or in the places that you go to, if there's not a group class that meets your needs, there should be. Because one of the best things about group fitness, and you've touched on it a little bit, is the connection, the community, the being accessible, the motivation, the people stuff, right? We know that one of the things that makes group fitness so popular is the fact that you'll show up for that instructor. You'll show up for the music you like. You'll show up for the people you know that stand beside you in class. And so when we have a day where you're like, oh, I really don't want to go exercise, you go for the people, you go for the experience. Absolutely. Right? So as we look at making fitness more sustainable, and we look at helping people build a lifestyle that includes exercise, we have to leverage community. It's insane to imagine that people are going to stick to the scientific periodized progression of progressive overload for years.
Right, really fast, yeah.
Yeah.
But I always say, yeah, it's easy to quit a treadmill and it's hard to quit a friend. So sure, there's access to, you know, equipment and tools and all this great stuff. But if you don't have human beings holding you accountable and wanting to go to coffee with you after a class, you know, that's a whole different element of glue that really sustains the healthy habit of exercise. So without a doubt, you know, and again, we mentioned the positioning of group fitness in the bigger picture, but it's important to remember that, you know, on average, 20% of anyone with a general gym membership, they are attending group fitness classes, and sometimes only attending group fitness classes. That is the reason they purchase their membership. So that's, you know, that's pretty powerful. One in every 4 to 5 people are really looking to group fitness to sustain their healthy habit of exercise. So if you can be a part of that touch point, that's feasibly 20% of your client base.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a lot.
So let's take a step back a little bit and look, because again, as part of understanding the evolution, we're moving towards more hybrid, more crossover, more spectrum instead of silo type fitness experiences. We're starting to see clubs and studios and gyms and models of the business that are doing a better job of integrating those pieces. So what's something that, you know, in the time that you've been doing a mostly group fitness oriented job within a larger organization, let's say within maybe the last 5 years or so, what types of skills or tools or familiarity with certain, you know, whether it's technology or whatever, what would you say has come up in the last 5 years that fitness professionals need to have a certain comfort level with, or a certain level of execution with, that maybe didn't exist 5 years ago? Is there anything you can think of that sort of is evidence of how we're evolving?
Well, for sure. I mean, you said the word technology, and that's just, I mean, that's been ever present for a while, but, you know, especially in these circumstances of, you know, isolation and really having to do a lot from home, you know, the social media platform, without a doubt, virtual classes, live streaming classes, we were moving in that direction a while ago anyway, in terms of recognizing that the consumer wants more access to, you know, whatever they can do on their phone is quick and easy. But this has kind of put us into fast forward with definitely a greater need and expectation of a fitness professional being able to deliver in some capacity in an online, or have an online presence. So, you know, that's going to look like different things for different people, but definitely a comfort level with social media, technology, you know, whether that's camera angles or voice projection, or, you know, just connecting with your client base and engaging with them, not necessarily in person. So figuring that out, I've seen it in so many different ways, but the idea is engagement and maintaining that relationship, maintaining that accountability, you know, until you can be in person once again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And then, you know, I think part of what we can do as we sit at home is maybe we have a little bit of extra time to think about, take a step back and look at what's working, where can we be better. You know, I think a lot of times we respond to consumer demand, for sure. That's what you have to do in a business. But at the same time, nobody knows better than us what we need to do, right? Like, and I think about, you're in a leadership position, you have so many people that essentially you create opportunity for, they look up to you, they respect you, they just, like, they're thrilled to be able to deliver what they do to their small groups of people because of the platform that you're responsible for. When it comes to being a leader and getting people to come and try a class for the first time and starting to build that, so much of it comes from how we lead by example, like how we go do the hard work first. Kat, we were talking on a class about, you know, you'll send her into a club to build up a new format, and part of how she does that is goes early and says hi to people and, hey, why don't you come try my class? And, you know, so there's a leadership quality to group fitness, to culture, to engagement, that I think is really important. And the reality is the end result is incredibly rewarding. It's incredibly rewarding to show up week after week after week to a packed room where everybody's excited to be there, where they wouldn't miss it for the world, where they bring their friends, where they brag about you, where they go for coffee after. That's the end result.
Mm-hmm.
But building that takes a ton of work. You have to sell yourself over and over and over again with endless enthusiasm. And when there's no energy in the room yet, because they're nervous and scared and they don't know each other and what's going on, you have to do all of that work. So there's some really heavy lifting to get to that place in the first place. But as a leader, when you look at, you know, what were we doing? What was working? I'm sitting at home. I'm thinking about what could change, or how could we be better? What are we learning about right now that we actually want to pull forward versus, you know, there's some things we can do that we have to be present with each other to do. What do you think from sort of an industry perspective? What do we need to get better at? What do we need to evolve? Or maybe even what do we have to stop doing to be better? What are some of the areas that you look at as, you know, maybe big rocks for moving forward?
Oh, wow. I mean, I think a couple of things. I mean, that skill of, you know, building that community and building that following, absolutely. You know, it takes effort, it takes consistency, but there's some real easy kind of tricks, to be honest. You know, giving people a challenge. like everyone bring a friend next week, and giving some sort of reward if there is follow through to that, or giving people a nugget like, you thought that workout was awesome, wait till you see what I bring you next week. So even just those small little statements are enough to pique people's interest. So those are kind of two little ways to keep people coming back, and just getting them into the habit, and just celebrating. I mean, these are classes in general. The nature of a class is to continue, right? To repeat and continue, repeat and continue. So, you've got to keep it interesting. You can't do the same thing every week. So what does your playlist look like? What does your exercise lineup look like? What do your sequences look like? Are you keeping it varied and diverse and exciting and interesting? And are you celebrating success? Because the people that come to your classes, like, whose birthday is it? Or, who achieved their first 5K? Those are small things to celebrate as a community, and that just bonds that community even more. So I think we can definitely get better at recognizing and celebrating the people that we do have, and those behaviors will inevitably allow that group to grow. But in terms of the things that we can possibly drop, I mean, I think, I see a lot of new trainers that already have an image of what kind of trainer they want to be, which is great. But they go into the industry thinking, I only want to train this kind of client. I only want to be this kind of trainer. Which is, again, nothing wrong with a goal, but I would encourage new trainers to think of that as an eventuality. And from the outset, what we all should be aiming to do is service anybody and everybody, recognizing that still vast majority of the population are inactive. And we tend to focus on what we know, which might be high performance sport, or, elite bodybuilding, or physique competitions. Those are all fantastic, but recognized as just a small, minute portion of the vast majority of the population that desperately need our help to manage their chronic disease, to manage their obesity, to manage their heart issues, whatever that might be. So recognizing that you're going to learn, and you want to be that sponge, especially in the first 5 years of your career, service anyone and everyone, and drop the idea of being a specialist for a few, until you get, I don't know, 100 clients under your belt, because you're going to want to soak up those experiences and that knowledge, and that's only going to build your expertise and your confidence.
Yeah, you know what? I really like that, because I think especially when we look at, when you're new, you need volume. When you're trying to build your business, you want to go to a place that has a lot of people coming in and out. So I even say to the students, listen, if you want to run your own gym one day, that's great, but make that a one-day goal. Yeah. What you need to do right now is go to a place that successfully runs the business and successfully serves lots of people, and you need to learn. You need to practice. So I always say, go to a gym first, and then in the future, go do something else. I think when you look at the majority of what you might call successful independent fitness people, they all started somewhere else. They didn't come straight out of, school and immediately run a successful business. So learn first, practice first. And, even if your goal is to be a sports performance specialist, there are very few people in the total percentage of the population that are going to come to you ready to train that way.
Right.
There might be an awful lot more people that want to get there, but they're not starting from there. And so if you don't have the skill and the experience and the confidence, and even I would hedge a bet and say, if you don't enjoy taking someone from deconditioned, highly sympathetic, not really having a plan to successfully execute fitness in their life, like they know they should work out, but they're too busy. Mm-hmm. Too busy. They haven't figured out how to get up in the morning, or how to prioritize, getting a workout in on their lunch break. Or if they're not in the habit of exercising, they might want to get to sports performance, but they're not there yet. So if you can't get them from sort of the general deconditioned, I have no plan, I have no structure place, where, let's be honest, most people,
that's where most of them
need our help from that place. If you don't have that skill set, you work yourself into a very small percentage of potential clients. So again, you might get there in the future, but I look at some of the coaches and trainers, even across the world, that I have the most respect for, and they take just as much joy out of helping someone get to a healthy BMI as they do helping someone take first place in a figure competition. And
Yeah.
that's because at the end of the day, part of the longevity in the industry is going to be that you care about the people that you work with. I don't think anyone
Absolutely.
loves numbers more than people. And if you do, you might have a hard time managing the people side of things. So you might not imagine making a large part of your career out of group classes, but being able to offer that, learning from that, understanding what people want when they go and seek that, makes you well-rounded and better able to help anyone, no matter where they're starting from. That makes you more accessible, more hireable, more desirable, because you can access helping someone at any stage in their journey, which I think group fitness
Absolutely.
does such a great job of. Yeah.
And that's really what teaching the average group fitness class prepares you for, because you get 20, 30 bodies in a space and you don't know much about them. And they're all obviously extremely different. So you get better at the skills needed to adapt a particular exercise or a particular workout for, you know, the newcomer with the bad right knee versus the elite athlete who just needs a recovery day and, you know, is going to be still, you know, jumping 6 feet or what have you. But, you know, you're going to get both polar opposite ends of the spectrum. But figuring out how to cue and motivate and challenge all abilities is definitely going to be of benefit when it comes down to building your own client base, let alone the opportunity for all those 20 people at some point or another to approach you at the end of class to say, hey, that was a great class. I understand you're a trainer. I'd love to book a spot, right? So there's your marketing platform on a weekly basis as well, which is, as we know, a no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I want to touch on this a little bit because I think you'll have some valuable insight, having spent a lot of time in the industry and seen the ups and downs and the ins and outs and whatever. We don't know what the timeline looks like here. We don't exactly know what regulations, restrictions, opportunities, whatever is going to be like on the other side. I'm pretty focused, at least in terms of my own mental mindset right now, that the two things to focus on right now are health and hope. Do what you can to be healthy and keep a positive mindset about the fact that we'll get through this. There will be something on the other side. So, I mean, that's a personal thing. I'm pretty focused on not gains or shredded or summer sick, whatever, but just, can I prioritize my health? And can I keep a hopeful mindset? When I think about those two things, though, when we get back to work, whatever it looks like, whatever the spaces look like, whether we have to have less people in a room so that there's more space, whether we have to spend more time sanitizing equipment or whatever it is, when we get back to work, what I'm curious about from your perspective is, what do you think we're going to have to do as isolation gets lifted, as it becomes safe to start to expand back into public spaces and live workout experiences, as a leader, as an instructor, as a trainer, as a respected, trusted professional? What would you say your mindset is, or your advice is, around what we have to do as we first get back to work?
Well, I think those are two great words. First of all, health and hope. It's certainly a trying time for a lot of people, not just because of the circumstance of kind of being homebound when a lot of us are used to being so active and so involved in our community. This is unprecedented, as we know. So a post-COVID-19 world, what does that look like? I think my one word of advice right now is patience. Because again, as you say, we just don't know. And, you know, it's, I would imagine though, even if by some, you know, magic wand, things go supposedly back to normal tomorrow, there's going to be a lot of, I would say, a mental process for most people to reintegrate into what used to be normal. I think we're a long ways away from that. So patience, we're going to need to recognize that this is all going to take time. There is going to be a return to normal at some point, but it's going to happen in stages. So where we, used to be comfortable sweating and breathing heavy or shoulder to shoulder people, it's just, we're not there. we're not going to be there for a while. So I think when we reopen club doors and people start, working out together, the one good thing, well, I think there's several good things and many learning points of this whole process, but we are entering into the summer months. So, outdoor workouts, so we're going to be all about it because, there is that sense of space and breathability and safety that we certainly want to maintain. But bringing things back indoors, I think we're going to have to maintain that, the social distancing rules for quite a while. What does that actually look like? Probably, at least a month or two. And slowly, again, it's going to be a staggered approach to dial things back into, closer proximity. But I would encourage everyone to, continue listening to, obviously, the major health organizations, national and international guidelines. I think we all, again, health is paramount. What we're, if nothing less, we're all learning that and appreciating that, without our health, we have nothing. So really adhering to that and not feeling pressured or rushed to reintegrate too quickly, because then, we'll be right back to where we started. So definitely a challenging time. And I think beyond the health aspect, though, what is also uncertain is certainly the economic aspect. So as much as there is an urgency to return to our regular clients and our regular classes, we might be in a situation of, not having those clients and customers with the financial means to come back. So that's a whole other conversation in terms of, well, what can we do as professionals to make their workout habit more affordable? And that's not going to be easy for anybody. But again, patience and a staggered, cautious approach is going to be best.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for that. I mean, it's funny when you said, they might not have the means and how do we make it more accessible to them? It's so funny because the answer in my mind is like group.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Where one-on-one training has a higher cost because of the, direct personalized attention. That's sort of, I think one of the really big reasons why group training even started to grow was because it allowed people to have guidance from a coach and a time on the schedule and progression over time. But a couple other people there doing the same thing as you made it more affordable. So, if anything, right now, sitting at home, not having anything to do, but having zero group experience is probably a little bit of a tougher situation to be in than, hey, I'm going to be able to adapt and evolve. And I've got a couple of different skills that I can draw from, as we get back to the way things are going to be. And within feeling safe and feeling like I have my own space and I want to be around some people, with understanding that we're not going to go, rushing back into 45 people taking classic step on a Saturday morning. There's going to be this really nice balance between like, man, I've missed people.
Right.
But there can't be too many people because I've spent so much time isolated that now I get all twitchy when someone stands too close to me at the grocery store. So yeah, there's going to be a funny balance. I'm going to share with you something that I've kind of been, I talk to a lot of people on the phone these days, which is already weird because I certainly didn't do a lot of that before. But I've been sharing this and I want your opinion on whether or not you think it makes sense. What I've been sharing with people is, in this time, you don't have to have the answers, because the reality is almost nobody has any reality. Almost nobody has answers. The people that are really certain are the ones that are like protesting that this is even real. They're certain that they can be out in public licking flagpoles and nothing's going to happen to them. So there isn't a lot of certainty right now. As a fitness professional, though, we've typically been and expected to be certain. My knee hurts. What should I do about it? Do this, don't do this. If it hurts, stop, call me in the morning. So we're in a profession where we learn things. We know science. We apply science to psychology and whatever. So I think sometimes what we get looked to or looked for to, whatever, what people expect of us is that we have the answers. And so it could be stressful to imagine stepping back into a space and being asked, you know, what about my membership? What about my training? What about this? What about that? Is it clean? It's okay to not have the answers as we look towards getting back, or even as we do what we can do right now. We don't have to have the answers, but being human, prioritizing relationships is about being at least able to hold space. Yeah. So I'm talking to former clients. They have lots of questions. I let them ramble. I let them vent. I let them say what they need to say. I validate their concerns. I say the honest truth is I don't really have any answers, but I'm hearing questions that are pretty similar to yours. So I know there's going to be things that we have to address on the other side. And so if we can show up and hold space and validate people's concerns and say, hey, we're doing our best and we're working on the answers. Do what feels comfortable to you. Give us suggestions and we're going to do our best, and please be patient with us. I think that's sort of what we have to prepare ourselves for is, be patient, be positive, be a human first. And things like the economics and the business and the big picture and all that stuff, while there have certainly been some challenges in having that all get, turned on its head and thrown in a blender, it will eventually work itself out. And so if we can prioritize relationships first and just being there for people, whatever happens next will come. So how do you feel about that in the sense of your, if you were talking to your group fitness instructors or talking to people that are figuring out, well, how do I prepare? How do you feel about that? Or is there anything else you would add?
Yeah, no, 100% agree. I mean, it's not possible to have all the answers, but it is very important. Well, it's always important as a fitness professional to listen to our clients and our customers and to empathize. But I fully agree. If we don't have the answers, we can't make them up. And we certainly don't want to make any false promises. But I find people in this situation in particular really want hard timelines. Like, when is this going to happen? And when is that going to happen? It's like, it's going to happen when it's going to happen. And even when it does, you might find people that, for whatever reason, just have a different comfort level. So even when doors do open and classes do resume, or just small group training or what have you, there's going to be people who are, I'm not quite ready. And that's going to have to be okay. And you're going to have to figure out how to service that person and reassure them. But, we're going to be, I think, looking at other industries as well, just seeing what are the norms, what are other major, reputable organizations and companies doing, and just everyone's learning as they go. So it's an interesting time for sure.
Yeah, for sure. The one thing too, as I've said, the number of people that realized things were going to get closed down and things were going to change, the first thing they did is went out and bought a dumbbell or picked up an exercise bike off of Craig. Like, the number of people that went and found a way to maintain fitness is just a great sign for us, because at a time like this, maybe people are finally understanding that protecting their health is important. So Absolutely. We're going to have to do things in a slightly different way. But, if the number one thing people are doing now that they have more time on their hands is finding a way to work out every day or every other day, that just bodes very, very well for what we do and what we have to offer and what we believe in. Because what we know about exercise is once you do it and you start to feel how it makes you feel better, it's so much easier to keep the habit than to have to start from scratch. And when people are busy, it's even harder to start from scratch. Whereas if they've been given time, they've found a way to even do some little at-home soup can type workout. What they're feeling is the benefit to, their health, the mental break they get, the nice little, physical challenge. Maybe they start eating a little bit healthier. They start sleeping a little bit better. As much as it sounds kind of counterintuitive, maybe a break from the gym is what people need to want to get back to.
Yeah, it's such an interesting, learning curve and experience, and it's a win. And I think one of the most rewarding things about being a fitness professional is not only just to help people in general in that kind of altruistic way, but really to see that trigger, to see that aha moment when people get it. It's not about weight loss. It's not about fitting into that dress for that event or whatever. That might be, you know, an impetus, but the real flip is when you start seeing the internal desire and that internal habit that exercise makes me feel amazing and has so many other benefits that I have to do this. It's not that, you know, it's a chore. I want to do this. So that's an amazing thing. And if anything, you know, if there's a silver lining to this whole episode, then that would be one of them for sure.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for making the time to jump on with me. You know, I as much as I'm an introvert, there's people I miss being around, and, you know, running into you at head office and sort of collaborating on some of the projects that we're passionate about, and finding ways to connect the one-on-one training and the group training a little bit more was something that I enjoyed. So I miss seeing your face at head office, and you know, I definitely miss all of the benefit and community and culture and engagement that group fitness has to offer. I miss being in a space where that's in the background. I haven't been the one delivering it for quite some time, but I just really like that component existing in the spaces that I do my work in, because, you know, you watch people stream out of a spin class or a Zumba class or whatever, and they're just happier people as a result.
Absolutely.
Of that. So,
yeah.
So, you know, thank you for jumping on with me and sharing your wisdom, just in the sense of wrapping it up, just to sort of, you know, pull us back to the beginning. At this time, with you know, downtime and time on our hands, are there any resources that you know, really like, or are there any, I don't know if books are the best translators to group fitness performance, but you know, if someone was looking to be able to take advantage of this downtime to, you know, polish up on their group capabilities, or to get themselves in the mental mindset to be able to serve this way in the future, are there any resources or recommendations that you'd have to offer?
Oh gosh. Well, I think there's just so much available right now in terms of virtual classes and live streaming classes. I would just say, you know, tap on things and check them out. You know, either from a perspective of participating actively in a class, or just sitting and analyzing, like noticing the number of followers, like what is making this particular platform or this particular instructor so popular. What is it that they do and how do they do it? It's a great learning opportunity there, but also a lot of free certifications, free stuff happening during this time frame to take advantage of. Whether that's, I think TRX was offering something free, Joga is offering something free, Yoga Fit, Bali X, like just all kinds of brands. So whatever floats your boat, you know, like whatever looks interesting or whatever you're curious about, like just now's the time, click on it and see what it's all about. And you can definitely try it. And if you like it, great. But if you don't, there's many other things to choose from. So now's a great time to explore for $0.
That's, you know what? I joke around all the time about the fact that I love group fitness, but you'll never catch me in a Zumba class. The reality is, if I was ever going to step up and try it out, it would be in the safety of my own living room.
Your own home, yeah.
See me do it. So for all of you guys out there who like lifting weights and you've secretly wanted to try group fitness, now might be the time.
Yeah.
Class and put a headband on and, you know, channel your inner cheerleader without anybody judging you. You might find that you love it so much that you'll actually be willing to do it in public when we get back.
There you go. That's hilarious.
Awesome. Well, Ingrid, you're a gem. Thank you so much for your time.
Likewise, my friend. Miss you.